Hello, this is Mike Smith. Welcome back to another tutorial in Maya. Today I want to show you different ways to split up an object. Now you might want to split an object up to either edit it further or to prepare it for texturing and UV mapping. So in this example I've got this pillar which is going to be part of a large scene. And I want to split this up in 5 different sections. So I've got the bottom, the second step up, the main circular part in the middle, the cylinder, and then the same 2 parts on the top. Now before I move on, I've not got these in the centre of the grid, and I've done that on purpose because once you've actually modelled something in the centre of the grid, you might want to move that later on, especially if you're building a large scene. So obviously with a large scene, not everything's going to be in the middle. So I've left it here on purpose just to show you what we can do. So first of all, I'll move this second one away. We'll come back to that later on. And the first method I'll show you is not the quickest way, but it's probably the easiest way, and it's one of the best ways to learn. So I tend to show people this way first. So if we select our object and have a look in our channel box, you'll see we've got some different attributes here. Now as you know, if we type in 0, the object goes back to the centre of the grid, but we don't want to move it. So what I need to do is first make sure the object's selected, go to Modify, Freeze Transformations, and that will actually put zeros on your translate and rotate attributes, and it will make your scale X, Y and Z 1, but it will not affect the position or the size of your object. So now I've done that, what I'm going to do, because I want 5 different components to make this entire object up, is I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to make 5 copies. So I'll just quickly position those. It doesn't really matter where you put them because we froze the transformations earlier. So now I'm basically going to delete different parts off of each one. So you might find it easier to go into your front or the side view. It depends what you feel more comfortable with, but I'm going to do this in perspective just for speed. So I'm going to delete everything except the very bottom part on this one. The second one, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to delete everything except the very top. So when you select that, if you're in perspective, just have a quick rotate around. Make sure you've got everything you want and not too much selected. And we can delete that too. The next one, we're going to delete everything except this second part at the top here. It doesn't really matter what order it's in, but what I can do is select too much if you like, and I can hold Control and deselect this one. So you might find it easier to do it that way around. Delete that, and we'll do the same on the next one as well. So I'll show you again how to do that. If I delete all of this at the top, if I select the entire part here, what I can do is just rotate up, so I'm looking at this almost as at the side, and I'm going to hold Control and deselect this top part. Now I've done that because it's quicker than actually selecting and deleting these parts on top here individually. And the last piece, I want to keep just the pillar, so I'm going to select the entire object, and I'm going to hold Control and just quickly select, so it deselects that middle part, and then press backspace to delete those. So I've got 5 different components here. Now all we need to do is go back to object mode, and because we froze the transformations originally, all of these different objects have a different attribute in our channel box. So our original one here will be 0. You can see everything 0. This next one says translate Z 10.58, whereas the others will say a different number. So what I can do is just select those, and in my channel box just type 0, and it puts them back to where they originally were. So like I said, this isn't the quickest way, but it's a very good way to learn, especially if you're not too familiar with the channel box. Also using freeze transformations from the modify menu. And once we've actually done that, you find everything lines up perfectly because they're in their original position. And we could select all of those, and then we could just group those into one group if you want to. So I'll delete those and I'll move on. I want to show you the other way, which is probably the quickest and most efficient way. So if I bring this back, again, it doesn't matter where it is. What we can do now is have a look closely at where we want to actually split our objects. And fortunately for this one, I've got some definite edges here, and these edges go all the way around. So I'm going to split those by detaching different components from these edges. So go into your edge mode, and if I double click on one of these edges, it selects right the way around. If it doesn't select all the way around your object, you might have some vertices that need to be merged, or if you have a very complex object, you may have to really think carefully about which edges you want to choose, but it's got to go right the way around or all the way across, either horizontally or vertically. And I'm going to hold shift and double click on this next one, and then I'll move up to the top and do the same. So be careful not to select another edge, because it will deselect everything we've just selected at the bottom. So now I can just hold shift again, double click on this edge, and then double click on the one at the very top. And I'll just zoom out and have a quick check that I've got everything selected that I wanted. So let's have a quick look around. So once you're happy with that, what we can now do is go up to our edit mesh menu, and we've actually got something down here called detach component. If I select that, it looks exactly the same to begin with, and if I go back to object mode, you'll find when I select it, it's still just one object. However, now if we go up to mesh, we can then go to extract, and as soon as you click on that, these now become separate objects. I'll have to go back into object mode to actually select those, but they are now separate objects, and we can now work with those later on if we need to. And you'll find when we actually use this process, it zeroes everything off in the channel box for us, so we don't have to go up to modify and freeze transformations. But I wanted to show you that way first because it's a very good way to learn. Okay, it's also grouped everything for us as well. So hopefully that's useful. Use these tutorials to your advantage. They're free to watch. Try and learn something new whenever you can, and watch out for my future tutorials.